Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, April 4th. For again, today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a nice winner in college basketball with UConn, -7 and -110 on Caesars. Really never in doubt. There was a little bit of worry there for a minute or so when San Diego State cut the lead to 5 in the final couple minutes, but UConn immediately went on another run and they won the game by double digits. But UConn dominated basically the entire game. UConn led for roughly the final 34 minutes of the game. It really wasn't that close, and San Diego State's offense fell apart in the first half, especially. They had 0 bench points in the entire first half, and UConn was better at basically every position, and they dominated the game. I've mentioned it before, basically with the Georgia TCU comparison for this game that I mentioned in the college basketball championship. It wasn't that extreme compared to the Georgia and TCU, but the point is Cinderella stories are fun. But the reason why it's fun when they win is because most of the time they lose, and it's because the talent disparity is extremely large in most cases. And there's no way UConn should have been favored by only 7. I understand you can make an argument, San Diego State maybe shoots the ball better, they keep the game close. I get all that. But UConn had better athletes, they had a deeper roster, and it really wasn't that close. And as a result, UConn led for once again the final 34 minutes of the game. That spread should have been double digits, and the fact that it was 7 I thought was too short, and we jumped it and we jumped on it and we ended up getting a nice winner. So look for another winner here on Tuesday. And for today's play today, going to go to baseball. Gonna look at a game between the Cubs and the Reds taking place at around 6:40 p.m. Eastern time. And for this game, going to take the Cubs money line at -125 on Caesars. Time recording of 2 a.m. Eastern time. Covering why we're going to take the Cubs here on the road. First reason, look at the actual starting pitching matchup here. The Cubs definitely have an advantage as they will be using Wesneski, and last season he was very good. 33 innings pitched, 2.18 ERA. He also pitched against the Reds twice last season, 11 innings pitched, 0.82 ERA, and he was good in spring training. He had 17 innings pitched, 2.12 ERA. So the Cubs might have a pretty underrated pitcher in the middle of their rotation, and I do think as a result he's a bit undervalued in this matchup based on the, I'll admit it, limited sample size from last year, but I do see some potential there, and I think as a result he definitely should be a bigger favorite, especially since the Reds will be using Luis Cessa. And try not to sound like a bitter Yankees fan who watched Cessa pitch for years. I don't think he's very good. I don't think Reds fans think he's very good, and he's been kind of hanging around the league for a while, but he's not exactly talented. Let's use that word. But he was especially bad at home last year as he went 37 innings and had a 6.08 ERA. So a great American, not exactly great, and I do think he's going to end up struggling in the spot once again. And to look at his numbers against the Cubs last year, not great either. Made 6 appearances because he kind of bounced around between the rotation and the bullpen. 14 innings pitched, 5.14 ERA. So the Cubs did kind of beat up on him a little bit last year, and they did improve the lineup with the offseason signings. I think Cessa should struggle in this game once again. And Cessa also didn't really pitch that much in spring training. 6 innings pitched, 4.5 ERA. So in addition to not being great at home last year and not being good against the Cubs last year, he also really didn't pitch much during the offseason. Only 6 innings pitched, I think, is kind of weird. And as a result, I am kind of wondering what the Reds' plan is in terms of length for Cessa in this outing. Is he going to go more than 5 innings? Probably not. I think he's probably going to go around 4 or 5 since he's kind of, once again, a hybrid between a starter and a reliever based on his career. And I bring it up because of the fact that the Reds used a lot of their bullpen yesterday in that 7-6 win against the Cubs. So the Cubs did end up losing that game, but they only used 2 pitchers. Smiley went 4 2/3, and then they used Keegan Thompson for the final 3 1/3. So the Cubs bullpen completely rested. They didn't use anybody yesterday. The Reds, not so much. They used 6 relievers since Overton only went 4 innings. They used their main guys. They used their high leverage guys because they won by 1 run. So they used their setup guy. They used their closer. And as a result, I'm not sure who exactly is going to be available in this game or how sharp they're going to be since they had to pitch yesterday. But the Cubs do have an advantage in rest with the bullpen, which is also a bit of insurance there if Cessa does end up pitching well. But to look at a reason why I think Cessa is also going to struggle, according to Ballpark Pal, which does projections with weather based on runs and home runs, etc., the weather should result in a 26% increase in home runs. And Cessa's issue, a big reason why he struggled at home, he could not keep the ball in the ballpark because Cessa allowed 14 home runs in 80 2/3 innings pitched last year. Wesneski, on the other hand, only allowed 3 home runs in 33 innings pitched. So Wesneski does a good job of actually keeping the ball in the ballpark. Cessa does not, and the Cubs do have a pretty decent lineup now with the acquisitions that they made. They have a couple of home run hitters there. Signed Swanson to a big deal. Happ has some home run power. Bellinger isn't really good, but he's got home run power. They got Mancini, they have Wisdom, they have Hosmer. They have a couple of guys who can hit some home runs. And I do think with Sessa's tendency to give up some bombs, I do think the Cubs could potentially hit a couple of home runs with guys on base and open up a decent lead. But I do think at the end of the day, you're going to give me a Cubs team which is better on paper. I know they've gotten off to a bad start and the Reds have gotten off to a decent start, but based on roster projections, etc., the Reds are easily a bottom 4 team in the league, and the Cubs are probably bottom 10, bottom 15. Still better than the Reds, though. But the point is you have a much better roster and a much better starting pitcher with a rested bullpen against a team that had to use pretty much all of its relievers yesterday, its main relievers, because of how close the game was. I think it's a pretty good spot for the Cubs. And I do think minus 125 is too short as a result. I expect to see money coming in on the Cubs, probably closing closer to 135, 140, but I'll take it now at 125. So play that once again here for Tuesday, April 4th is going to be on the Cubs money line at minus 125 on teasers. Bye, everyone.